I wasn't raised in church. I didn't go to church or nothing like that. But after I was, 18, really 19, when I truly came to God, and before then I had some church background, but not that much. Maybe when I was a kid, I had more of a background in church, but I had a lot of things that I was doing that, I didn't want to let go of it. I was comfortable in my sin, to put it bluntly, and I wasn't ready to change any of that. You had to have something really good to bring to the table in order for me to change that, and that's what God had, because it wouldn't have changed me like that. I was involved with drugs. I was involved with a lot of things that, that I regret now, but that was who I was and what I did, and I was just basically a product of my environment. But I didn't have to stay that way, and neither do you or anyone that that you feel like they don't have no hope, but they do, because Jesus Christ is the truth. He's the authentic. Everything else out here is just a gimmick. It's not the real version. Jesus is the truth. He's the real version. And when we come to him, we realize what we've been missing out. There's a God-shaped hole in our heart, and it can only be filled by God. We're searching for something, and we're trying to find it through the drugs we take, people we hang out with, the things that we do, and we will never find it. I know this may sound like a cliche, but it really is true. Like when I was working at a random job, just trying to make some money, and I wasn't planning on keeping that job. In fact, I had a bunch of my friends that would constantly tell me, hey, why don't you go get that job, take that money and flip it, use it to buy drugs so you can make more money. You don't have to work a 9 to 5. You don't have to just slave at work. So, I bought into that because that was my friends. I was, being influenced by my peers, and I would just take, work jobs, but I never would make money like I thought I would trying to sell drugs. And I wasn't a big time seller or nothing. I'm not going to act like I was, so I'm not going to act like I know how all that works. But I will say I did it. I was around it. I had family that just really messed up their lives because of the drugs, so I know what it's all about. I've been around a lot of that stuff. I don't want to go into too many details, but I'm just saying that someone invited me to church, and on this particular job I was talking about, and I wasn't even taking the job that serious, but they invited me in the church and asked me, if I wanted to go, and I really didn't want to, but because the person kept helping me on the job so much, I couldn't just shake him off like that. And he was willing to even buy me tires for my car, because I told him, I said, I don't even have the best tires on my car. I think I was just trying to get out of, going to church. But, I got to a point where, I'll go ahead and go to church with him. And when I went, it changed my life, because when I went, and as I went, I went a few times, when I went, I seen people praising God with their hands lifted in the air. And next thing you know, I heard them speaking in a different language, speaking in different tongues. And at first, I had my skepticism on it. But then, when I hung out with these people outside of church, and they acted the same as they did in church, I was like, okay, this can't be fake. There's got to be something real to it. Next thing I know, I started praying more. And I really was intentional about praying. And, I heard the pastor at one point say, you can pray to God on anything. So I just started praying to God on anything I could think of. And the next thing you know, I seen him answer my prayers. And, I believe it was for me to have my eyes open and look and be looking around and see that he answered my prayers. But nevertheless, he definitely did. I believe it took faith for me to believe it, but I didn't even know what all that was about. I just, started really asking God, hey, if you're there, help me see it. And when I started seeing him answer my prayers, that's when I was like, you know what? I see it, God. I started stepping closer to him. And next thing you know, I lifted my hands one day at church, and boom, I started speaking in a different language. I felt it coming out. I could stop anytime I wanted to. I wasn't being possessed by anything. God's a gentleman. He won't force him on no one, but he will come upon you. He will come to you whenever you speak to him, whenever you ask him. And so that's what I did. I asked him in my life, and I started worshiping him with my hands lifted. Of course, I asked him to forgive me of my sins. Then I started speaking in a different language, and I didn't want to stop. I could have stopped, but I just didn't want to because it felt so good. And that was the beginning of my life with God. And I just kept walking it out, and it's changed my life. I went from quitting school, didn't have no future, to going back to school, get my GED, and that was a miracle within itself because I really didn't even study for it. Then I got a degree, in associate degree in college, and I'm married, bought my own home, came from a place where no one has homes, came from a place where living in trailers, and so many things, but God blessed me. And if he did it for me, like the old saying goes, he can do it for you.